Hi, I'm Teresa Yunkin, a technology strategist who's passionate about emerging technologies, collaborative leadership, and healthcare. I work with leaders to get laser focused to manage the change that new technologies bring to their industry so that they can support and lead inspired teams and deliver powerful results. Now, let's talk about what's been happening in the crypto world because we cannot avoid it. And it really is something that we should be talking about. So, for me, this is why it's important to be educated about this nascent technology. Now, the technology that undergirds crypto is blockchain, and the technology that undergirds Web3 is blockchain. Okay, it's the technology around it. Technology, and I want to be really clear, technology didn't cause the fall of FTX, it was bad business decision making. So let's have a little postmortem on FTX and what this means for the rest of the Web3 and the crypto communities. This is still an ever changing story, so I'm using information available as of Monday, November the 14th, and links to my sources are included. Let's start with a little background. Sam Bankman Fried, aka SBF, when you see it in crypto circles, he graduated from MIT in 2014. He did a stint with a Wall Street firm called Jane Street Capital. They were a trading firm focused on international ETFs, exchange traded funds. He stayed there for about 3 years. He left in about 2017. He founded Alameda Research, which is a quantitative trading firm, meaning that the trades are determined by mathematical computations and number crunching, right? They use that to identify opportunities in the market to invest in. And maybe you've heard of quant trading, or if you've ever been around day traders, they talk a lot about quant trading. So that's the technology that they use. And we are going to file that away for later. Okay, so in 2018, Sam Bankman Fried moves to Hong Kong. He starts FTX in April of 2019. Now, FTX was a cryptocurrency derivatives exchange. I'll explain what a derivative is because it's kind of important. A derivative is any product or contract with a value determined by an underlying asset. You have value that's determined by an asset. Now, you may be familiar or at least heard of futures, options, and perpetual contracts. I'm not going to explain what those are here, but these function in crypto much in the same way that they do in traditional financial markets. So, Sam Bankman Fried and FTX were like the golden child of crypto. In 2019, FTX started, it had $0 in net revenue. And 2 short years later, they reported $1.2 billion in revenue. Now, this is revenue, it's not valuation. Someone didn't say your company is worth this much. They had money in revenue, that 1.2 billion. It's a lot. This rapid growth was fueled by VC money, venture capital, and they also had infusion from an early investor. And that early investor was Binance. Binance is the world's largest crypto exchange. Now, FTX shoots up, and then Binance and FTX, they become direct competitors, and they decide that they should part ways. And when they parted ways, it was for a $2 billion buyout. So FTX is to pay Binance $2 billion. Now, much of the buyout was in the form of FTT. Now, that is the token that's created by FTX to fund their trading fees. And if you go back to an earlier post, I talked about what tokens are and what their function is in the DeFi world. Okay. Another little piece that is good to know is that crypto trading is not regulated in the US. So many exchanges like FTX and Binance are not allowed to operate in the US. That's why you're hearing things about the Bahamas. So many of the businesses are run offshore. And companies like FTX and Binance, well, you know what? They were trying to work with regulators and trying to at least kind of get some understanding of what this whole DeFi world was. And so, when you have a lot of money, you've got power and influence. And they were able to actually process US transactions in certain states. And that was under a specific set of rules. Now, if you don't know, not every state will allow these exchanges to run. So, that's something, and I've talked about like going to your states and understanding what the rules about crypto are there too. Okay, back to the story. Now, this is where things take a left turn. Not only was Sam Bankman-Fried running FTX, he was growing Alameda, his quant trading firm. Now, during the rise of FTX, and during the rise of all these crypto companies over the past couple of years, they are growing in wealth and power. And with that wealth and power, they're starting to go out and lobby and work with US legislators to formulate crypto regulations for the US, right? They're trying to see how they can operate and bring these new technologies and innovations to the US. So what ensued next was that the founder and the CEO of Binance, remember the early investor, the founder and CEO Changpeng Zhao, or CZ as he's known in the crypto world, he claims that Sam Bankman-Fried was making substantiated claims to regulators about Binance. On November the 2nd, CZ announces the move to sell $529 million of the FTT tokens that they held from the buyout. Remember, they got tokens and they got cash. Well, unfortunately, in a stroke of bad luck, do you remember Alameda, the other company that Sam Bankman-Fried owned? Well, their balance sheet got leaked. And as it turns out, Alameda was holding billions of dollars of FTT tokens. Now, the financial transactions of FTX and Alameda were like way too close for financial comfort. As they started to look, it was kind of this circular transaction thing happening. It's no in finance. That's why we've got regulations. 2 days later, on November the 4th, when there was, people are like talking, there's rumors going around, Dirt Bubble Media shows up and they report more details on Alameda's holdings. And on November the 6th, CZ and Binance send out a tweet saying, due to recent revelations that have come to light, Binance will liquidate its entire holdings of FTT. Well, that transaction was worth more than $550 million. So, right, the dollars are starting to stack here. And on November the 2nd, the next day, Sam Bankman-Fried tweets, FTX is fine, assets are fine. And he also adds, at CZ, I'd love it if we could have worked together for the ecosystem. Really important, right? Like everybody who's involved in DeFi and who's involved, and it'll be with any technology that's there, people who understand the value of the technology are trying to work together to make sure that this is going to work. Okay, a little bit more background. Well, the crypto markets had a pretty rough year this past year. There was the insolvency of Luna and there was the insolvency of Celsius earlier this year. Okay, those were both preceded by a large dump of tokens into the market. And what's that old saying? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So when investors saw the flood of FTT tokens in the market, because of that liquidation, they reacted as they should have. In essence, it was like a run on the bank. Everybody starts taking their money off the FTX exchange. There weren't enough assets to liquidate, and the exchange stops transactions. So on November the 8th, Binance issues a non-binding letter of intent to fully acquire FTX.com, that's FTX, and Sam Bankman-Fried confirms this is exactly what's happening. Okay, like any other financial transaction, right? The buyer does their DD, their due diligence to ensure everything is in order to execute the purchase. We do that all the time. Companies do it. It's a regular part of mergers and acquisitions. It's a regular part of everything. Everybody does their due diligence. It's not anything surprising or out of the ordinary. Well, on the next day, CZ and Binance back out of the deal, right? Like that's not really a deal. It was just a letter of intent. And they state, quote, the issues are beyond our control or ability to help, end quote. On November the 10th, about 24 hours later, Sam Bankman tweets, I effed up. At this point, there was a run on the bank. They've stopped giving people back their money. It's crazy town out there. And so here we are on November the 11th. That has FTX filing Chapter 11 bankruptcy. It's pretty ugly. Now, for those of you that were around in 2008 during the housing crisis, does it sound just a little familiar, much like the Lehman Brothers debacle, right? And as I see it, just like the financial markets recovered, so will the crypto markets. And there's a lot of signals that indicate this. The last companies that are standing, just like in the financial crisis, are going to be companies that have a viable use case. And it's not just promoting glam and hype. There is, do you remember when we talked about derivatives, you have to have an asset and that asset has to have value. And that's what we're finding. So, while the rest of the world is focused on this FTX fail, there's one thing that I'd like to point out, and it's that we continue to see the market prepare for the adoption of Web3 digital payment transactions. That's the use case, the digital payment transactions. And we also see that the development of Web3 is rooted in technology, blockchain technology, right? It's the technology that we're focused on. So, in the end, amidst all the recent turmoil in the crypto markets, the rails for digital payments using blockchain, they continue to be laid and the adoption is occurring rapidly. We have had Visa, MasterCard, Nike, Wall Street, Disney. They're all preparing for the financial shift to digital payments in the Web3 environment using blockchain. So it is a super exciting time for the industry. And while the dust settles, I would encourage you to learn more about this Web3 technology and examine how your companies will incorporate this new tech into your 1, 3, and 5-year strategies. So you should be sitting at your tables with your leadership asking questions like, which blockchains are we going to develop or are we going to participate in? How are we going to monitor peer-to-peer transactions without a central financial intermediary? Remember, one of the principles of blockchain is decentralized finance, meaning that we can go peer-to-peer. We don't have to go through the bank. How are you going to work in that environment? And finally, will you follow Disney, one of my favorite companies to study, one of my very, very favorite oh my gosh, business cases. Love Disney, love their customer service, love the way that they run their company. Are you going to follow Disney and use NFTs to reward your employees for a job well done? Are you? What are you thinking about? What can you do? So if you're interested in learning more about cryptocurrencies and digital assets and you want a quick overview of what's happening in the Web3 world, you can sign up for the Real Smart Crypto newsletter and you will get the latest vetted crypto and digital asset news delivered to your inbox every week. Oh my gosh, I'm getting so excited. So don't miss out. Get started today. All right. Now I'm going to catch you here next week where we'll be having another conversation about all things Web3, technology and innovation. Oh my gosh, I've talked a long time. My mouth is tired. So I'll catch you guys next week. Thank you for joining me here. And again, get educated. All right. See ya.